Humaira Begum was the last Queen of Afghanistan, a woman who changed the fate of hundreds of thousands of Afghan women. Thanks to her, Afghan women were able to study, work, and wear European-style clothing. But after a coup, everything changed. The Queen had to flee the country with her family. Today, women in Afghanistan once again live in fear, trapped within four walls. How did one woman manage to give freedom to an entire nation? What terrible challenges did she have to endure? And why has her name been erased from the nation's memory? Watch the full video to learn about the tragic fate of Afghanistan's last queen. Let's begin. Humaira Begum was born in 1918 in Kabul, into a noble family. Her father was a military officer, and her mother came from an aristocratic lineage. As a child, she received an excellent home education, studying languages and literature. But her fate was sealed. At the age of 13, she married her cousin, Crown Prince Mohammad Zahir, who was 17 at the time. It was a dynastic marriage arranged by tradition. At 14, Humaira gave birth to her first daughter, and a year later, her life changed forever. In 1933, her father-in-law, King Nadir Shah, was shot by a student protesting high taxes. The 19-year-old Prince Zahir became the new king, and young Humaira unexpectedly became the queen. But no one knew then that she would be more than just the king's wife. She would change the fate of Afghan women. In the early years of the young king's reign, he had little real power. The country was ruled by his uncles, Hashim and Mahmud, who held conservative views. For Humaira, this was the calmest and happiest time. She lived in the palace with her beloved husband, and they had 8 children, 6 sons and 2 daughters. Although Afghan women were required to wear the shadri, full-body veil, inside the royal palace, the king's wives and daughters dressed in European fashion. But appearing in public like that was unthinkable. In the 1930s, no one could have imagined that Humaira Begum would one day become a symbol of women's freedom. During this time, she also experienced her first major tragedy. In 1942, her eldest son, Muhammad Akbar, who was expected to become the future crown prince, died in her arms at the age of 9 after a severe illness. This was an unbearable loss for Humaira, but she knew she had to keep going, for her children, her husband, and her country. Meanwhile, Afghanistan was slowly changing. King Zahir Shah had received a European education in France and travelled the world. He had big plans to modernize the country. By the 1940s, he had gained enough experience to start removing his uncles from power. He built factories, constructed roads, and developed the economy, while Humaira focused on humanitarian reforms. In 1946, the Queen established the Women's Welfare Association. Its goal was to integrate Afghan women into the social and economic life of the country. But this sparked outrage from Islamic clergy, who accused her of destroying centuries-old traditions. Many believed that women should not take part in public life. Thanks to the Queen's efforts, women were allowed to study at Kabul University. The first women's magazine in the country's history, called Merman, was launched in Kabul. Women even began working in government offices, banks, and transportation companies. For a country that had only recently lived under medieval customs, this wasn't just reform, it was a true breakthrough. In 1959, Queen Humaira did something unimaginable at the time that shocked Afghan society. She appeared in public without the traditional shadri, almost triggering an uprising by fundamentalists. This act was an official signal to society. Women were no longer required to cover their faces. The clergy saw this as a direct threat to the traditional way of life. Religious leaders demanded that the Prime Minister enforce Sharia law. The response was unexpected. The authorities challenged them to find direct evidence in the Quran requiring women to wear the shadri. When no proof was found, the Prime Minister officially declared that the shadri was a cultural custom, not a religious requirement. and that every woman could decide for herself whether to wear it or not. After Humaira's bold act, thousands of women started removing their chadri. Inspired by the royal family, the wives and daughters of officials, and later ordinary city women, began walking the streets without traditional coverings. But this was only the beginning. In the mid-1960s, Afghanistan adopted a new constitution that legally guaranteed women's rights. They could now vote, work in government offices, and participate in public life on equal terms with men. However, the royal family had no idea that their era was coming to an end. In 1973, a coup took place in Kabul. While the king was in Italy for medical treatment, his cousin, Daoud, who was then the country's prime minister, seized the opportunity. He announced the overthrow of the king, abolished the monarchy, and declared himself the head of the new republic. Humaira, along with her children and relatives, was placed under house arrest, essentially becoming a hostage. Zahir Shah was forced to sign his abdication. Only then was his family allowed to leave Afghanistan and join him in Italy. With the little money the once wealthy king had left, they could only afford to rent a small 4-bedroom villa in the outskirts of Rome. He relied on financial help from the Shah of Iran and the generosity of friends. Humaira and her husband lived there for 29 years. They dreamed of returning to their homeland before the end of their lives. Their children received good educations and settled around the world. Their second son, Ahmad Shah, the new crown prince, chose to live in the United States. Meanwhile, Afghanistan faced another wave of turmoil. In 2001, the US military overthrew the Taliban regime and took control of Kabul. This gave the royal couple a chance to return home. In the spring of 2002, the former king made a triumphant return to Kabul. His reign was remembered as a time of long-lasting peace, and many Afghans hoped for the restoration of the monarchy. But the political situation made that impossible. Zahir Shah became a symbol of a bygone era and was given the title Father of the Nation. A few months later, Humaira was also supposed to return to Afghanistan, but her dream never came true. Just weeks before the move, she died of heart disease. It's likely that the stress of returning home was too much for her heart to bear. Before her death, she asked to be buried in her homeland, and her final wish was granted. Thousands of people from all political backgrounds attended her funeral. Even after her passing, she continued to unite the nation. If she saw what is happening in Afghanistan today, she wouldn't believe her eyes. Everything she fought for has been erased. In 2021, the Taliban regained power in Afghanistan, and once again, women lost their freedom. They are now forced to fully cover their bodies and faces in public to avoid temptation and tempting others. Women are banned from working. Thousands of Afghan women who once held jobs in ministries, banks, and the media were dismissed. They are no longer allowed to study. Girls are forbidden from receiving education beyond the 6th grade, including attending universities. Women are not allowed to speak in public, including reciting the Quran or praying in front of other women. A woman's voice is considered intimate and viewed as a sin. The queen who once bravely refused to wear the chadri wouldn't even be able to step outside in today's Afghanistan. But the story isn't over yet. Will Afghan women ever get another chance at freedom? What do you think about this brave Queen of Afghanistan? Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and give us a like if you enjoyed the video. See you soon.